Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about something really important, especially for safety professionals. Those of you looking to, just up your workplace safety game in general. Scaffold safety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're going deep into OSHA's guidelines, specifically Subpart L, Appendix A.
Okay.
This thing covers scaffold specifications, and it's really, you can think of it kind of like a blueprint for building safe and compliant scaffold systems.
That's right. And these guidelines are non-mandatory, but, they're an incredibly valuable resource for anybody who designs, uses scaffolds, anybody like that. They really are kind of the best practices and technical insights that can make a real difference in, helping prevent those accidents, keeping workers safe.
Absolutely. And one of the things that really stood out to me when I was looking at this stuff was the focus on quality materials.
Yeah.
Especially lumber. We're talking lumber, right?
Yeah.
This isn't just any old wood can be used on a scaffold.
No, absolutely not. The standard calls for construction-grade lumber with a minimum strength grade of 1,500 pounds per square inch.
Wow.
So think of it this way. You wouldn't use, flimsy cardboard to build a bookshelf that you're going to put, big, heavy books on, right?
Of course not.
Same principle applies to scaffolds. Using subpar lumber, that could compromise the entire structure, putting workers at risk.
Absolutely. And they even get down to, the dimensions. They talk about nominal versus rough sizes, which can get a little confusing.
Yeah.
So can you break that down for us? What is that all about?
Sure. So when you buy a piece of lumber, let's say like a 2x4, right?
Yeah.
The actual dimensions are a little bit smaller than 2 inches by 4 inches. That's the nominal size.
Right.
The rough size refers to the dimensions before it's planed or finished.
Okay.
And the standard is very clear that when rough sizes are specified, only rough or undressed lumber can be used.
So even if a piece of finished lumber is like close in size, it doesn't fly.
Correct. It would not meet those requirements.
Huh. See, and that's why this stuff's important. Little details like that could be easily missed,
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why these guidelines are so important. They highlight those critical details that might not be obvious, but, could have huge impacts on safety.
Big time. Another thing that caught my eye was they talk about wood plank grading.
Right.
And the grade stamp. They're saying, it's a mark of quality and compliance. Like, what does all that mean?
Yeah, so that stamp you see on lumber, that's not just decoration.
Right.
That indicates it's been inspected, it's been graded by a qualified agency.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're looking for is that it meets specific strength and quality standards. It's like a seal of approval.
Oh, okay.
It gives you confidence that the lumber that you're using is actually fit for its intended purpose.
So it's not enough to just eyeball it and be like, yeah, that looks sturdy.
Exactly, yeah. You need that third-party verification from a recognized grading agency. Again, it's about ensuring that consistency, that reliability in the materials that are used for these scaffolds.
Right, because we're talking about worker safety here.
Exactly, yeah.
We can't mess around with this stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now let's say you got your high quality, you got your graded lumber, you're good to go.
Yeah.
How long can those planks actually span safely?
Right. Well, that's where those tables in Appendix A come in.
Oh, okay.
They provide the allowable spans for wood planks, and they're based on a couple of things. They look at the type of lumber, so solid sawn, fabricated, the thickness, and probably most importantly, the maximum intended load.
So when we say intended load, we're talking about how much weight the scaffold is designed to hold.
That's exactly it. And that can vary, right, depending on what you're doing. A light-duty scaffold might only need to support 25 pounds per square foot, something like painting or inspections.
Right.
But a heavy-duty scaffold, that's being used for construction, masonry work, that might need to support 75 pounds per square foot.
Yeah.
Or more.
And I see here in the tables for solid sawn planks, the allowable span changes depending on the load. So, for example, a 2x10 plank under a 25 pound per square foot load can span 10 feet.
Right.
But you increase that load to 75 pounds per square foot, the maximum safe span drops down to 6 feet. That's a big difference.
Yeah, huge difference. And that's why it's so important to refer to these tables. You really got to make sure that those planks you're using can handle the expected load, without exceeding those safe span limits.
Yeah, otherwise, you're risking those planks bending or even breaking.
Right, yeah.
Which could be catastrophic, obviously.
Catastrophic, exactly.
So these tables are really good, though. It really takes the guesswork out of it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They provide, a clear framework for making those decisions, based on what the project needs.
Right.
It's about applying engineering principles
Yeah.
to make sure that the structural stability and the safety of the scaffold is all there.
Now, what about fabricated planks and platforms? How does it address those?
So for fabricated components, it's essential to rely on the manufacturer's recommendations
Yeah. Okay.
for those maximum spans and load capacities.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who are doing that testing to determine the limits, right?
Right.
It's crucial to follow that guidance.
And they often use, different load ratings, light, medium, heavy duty.
Mm-hmm.
What does that translate to in terms of actual loads?
So those ratings correspond to the intended loads that we were talking about before.
Okay.
So light duty typically means 25 pounds per square foot.
Right.
Medium duty, 50.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy duty, 75.
Makes sense.
And then, for platforms that are designed to hold specific numbers of people, the manufacturer is going to have specific calculations for that.
Oh, that's handy. So you know exactly how much weight you can safely, put on there.
Exactly.
Let's talk about guardrails for a second.
Okay.
The guidelines have some pretty specific requirements for those.
Yes. They are essential for preventing falls.
Right.
And the standard covers everything. I mean, we're talking materials, height, strength requirements, top rails, mid rails, toe boards, posts.
Wow. So they've really thought of everything. I mean, they even talk about overhead protection.
Yeah.
They recommend planking or plywood, to shield workers from falling objects.
Exactly. It's a comprehensive approach. They recognize that, hazards can come from above as well as the sides.
Right.
So it's not just building a sturdy platform.
Right.
It's about creating that safe environment that's
Yeah.
protecting them from all those potential hazards.
It's like they're saying, we got you covered from the ground up.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
And that's the level of diligence we need. When we're talking about worker safety, especially when you're in high-risk environments like this.
Right. Okay, so now let's move on to talking about some of the specific types of scaffolds.
Oh, okay.
And the unique safety considerations that they have. Because the guidelines cover a wide array, right? I mean, from the common stuff to pretty specialized stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. They address everything from those basic frame scaffolds
Wow.
to complex systems, suspended scaffolds,
Right.
even, tank builder scaffolds.
Right.
And each type has, its own nuances and potential hazards
All right.
that need to be addressed.
So let's get into a couple of examples.
Yeah.
And just see how those guidelines, make those specific recommendations for each type.
Sounds good.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I think that'll really help illustrate, how these things are practically applied
Yeah.
and how they translate into, real world safety measures.
Let's do it.
So let's start with bricklayers' square scaffolds. Okay.
These are pretty common in masonry construction.
Right.
And the guidelines, they have specific requirements for how they're put together and used.
Gotcha. So I'm looking here, and I see that the maximum intended load for those is 50 pounds per square foot.
Correct.
And the spacing of the squares, that depends on if it's light duty or medium duty.
Exactly. So for that light duty work, the squares, those can be spaced up to 8 feet apart.
Okay.
But for medium duty, where you're dealing with heavier loads,
Right.
that spacing has got to be reduced, no more than 5 feet.
Oh, wow.
And that just ensures that it can support, the weight of the workers and materials.
Makes sense that the closer spacing would provide more support,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you got all that extra weight.
Right.
It's kind of like, how a table with more legs is going to be sturdier than one with fewer legs.
Yeah, great analogy.
Right.
It's all about distributing that load evenly.
And making sure it's got that support to prevent it from, being overloaded and collapsing.
Right. Okay, now what about horse scaffolds?
Okay.
Those are the smaller ones, right? The portable ones, often used for like painting, maintenance work, that kind of thing.
That's right, yeah. And the guidelines, they actually point out a pretty important detail about the bearers.
Okay.
So those are the horizontal supports, right? The ones that are carrying the weight of the platform.
Okay.
And they actually specify different sizes for those, for light duty versus medium duty.
So I'm looking at it here. This is light duty. You could use 2x4s,
Mm-hmm.
but medium duty, you got to bump it up to 3x4s.
You got it.
Why is that?
Load capacity, right?
Okay.
Those larger dimensions of the 3x4s, that just provides way more strength, more stability.
Oh, okay.
So it can handle those, heavier loads you're going to see with that medium duty work. It's like, choosing the right size rope for a job.
Yeah.
You wouldn't use a thin, flimsy rope to lift something super heavy, would you?
No, definitely not. You want the right rope for the job.
Exactly. Same principle with the scaffold bearers.
Oh, okay.
You got to match that size, that strength to whatever load you're expecting.
To the intended load. Gotcha.
Yep. And these guidelines help you do that.
Okay.
They lay out those, recommendations, make sure the thing is designed right, constructed right, can withstand those loads.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on to a more specialized type here. How about window jack scaffolds?
Oh, right.
Those are the compact ones, right? They're often used for, window cleaning, window repairs, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And, one thing that really jumps out in the guidelines is the limit on how many people can be on there.
Okay.
Just one.
Wow. That seems pretty restrictive. Why is that?
Well, it's a safety precaution. It's because of the size and how those window jack scaffolds are designed.
Okay.
They're smaller.
Yeah.
More compact.
Right.
Than other types. And they're just not meant to support multiple people.
So it's about preventing overloading, right?
Yeah.
Making sure it stays stable.
Right.
Even with just one person.
Yeah. Because overloading it, even a little bit,
right,
that could make it tip over. It could collapse.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So it's really important to stick to what the manufacturer says.
Yeah.
About those weight limits. How many people are allowed up there?
Gotcha. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about suspended scaffolds.
Okay.
Now, those are the ones that are hanging from ropes or cables, right? And they're used a lot for like working on high-rise buildings, bridges, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the guidelines, they actually talk about preventing scaffold sway.
Which sounds pretty scary when you're way up in the air like that.
Yeah, it definitely can be. That sway can be caused by wind, by the workers moving around, even just the natural kind of back and forth movement of the platform itself.
Right.
And yeah, it can be unsettling, even dangerous if it's not controlled.
So how do these guidelines address that? What do they say?
So they recommend a couple of things. One is angulated roping.
Okay. And
the other is static lines.
Okay, break that down for me. What are those?
Sure. So with angulated roping, that's where you attach the ropes at points that are closer to the building than the edge of the platform.
Okay.
And that creates an inward force.
Oh, okay.
That kind of naturally pulls it towards the building.
So it's almost like a built-in tension that keeps it from swinging out.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what are the static lines?
So static lines, those are separate ropes or cables, right?
Right.
And those are secured to the building and then attached to the platform as well. And you tighten those lines, and that pulls the platform nice and snug against the building.
Oh, so it's like having an extra set of hands kind of holding it steady.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I like that.
And all that, it all works together to create that more stable, secure work platform.
Right.
Less risk of sway, gives the workers more confidence.
Yeah, that's huge.
When they're up there working.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to another specialized type here. How about tank builder scaffolds?
All right.
Now, those are used in the construction of like large tanks, vessels, that kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
And those, that presents some unique challenges, right?
Yeah.
Because of those curved surfaces.
Yeah, for sure. And the guidelines actually address those directly.
Okay.
So, for example, they recommend putting in a taut wire or a rope, at the plank level between the scaffold and the tank shell.
So like a safety line?
Yeah, like a safety line, an extra layer of protection for the workers.
So it's kind of like a safety net that's specifically designed for that unique geometry.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Because those traditional guardrail systems, those might not be enough.
Right. And I'm also seeing here that they're very specific about the type of lumber that you got to use.
Yeah, they are.
For tank builder scaffold planks, they're calling for rough, full dimension 2x12 Douglas fir or southern yellow pine of select structural grade. That's a mouthful. Why so specific?
Well, it's all about strength and durability.
Okay.
These tank builder scaffolds, they often have to deal with really heavy loads.
Right.
A lot of stress.
Yeah.
And those specific types of lumber, those have the structural properties to handle it all safely. Douglas fir and southern yellow pine, those are known for their strength, their resistance to bending.
Gotcha.
So they're really well suited for this.
So it's not just some random recommendation.
Yeah.
It's based on what's needed for this type of scaffold.
Exactly. And it just highlights how important it is to, understand how the scaffold's going to be used, right? And then choosing materials that meet those specific needs for strength and safety.
Right. It's really clear that these guidelines take a very detailed and nuanced approach, recognizing that there's not just one solution that fits everything.
Right, you got it. They give you the framework to make those informed decisions.
Yeah.
Based on, the type of scaffold, how you're going to use it, the hazards that might be involved. It's about, tailoring those safety measures to what the project needs.
Yeah, it's really impressive, how much detail these guidelines go into.
It is, yeah.
Really emphasizing, thinking through every single aspect of this stuff. The design, the construction, the use. It's a lot.
Yeah, it really is. And that's because scaffold safety, it really is multifaceted. I mean, it's not just about the strong materials. It's about putting it together the right way.
Yeah.
Regular inspections, making sure the workers know, the safe practices.
It's got to be a culture of safety.
Absolutely.
That goes through every single level of the project.
Yep, from the beginning all the way to the end.
Exactly. And these guidelines, they give us like a roadmap.
Yeah.
To building that culture.
Yeah, they really do. They give us the tools and the knowledge to make those smart decisions.
Right.
The ones that put worker well-being first.
Absolutely. So for anybody out there listening, anybody who's involved in scaffold safety, whether you're a safety professional, supervisor, or worker, whatever, I highly recommend checking out, the full content of Subpart L, Appendix A.
Absolutely.
It's really helpful. Like having a safety expert on call, walking you through all this stuff.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
And of course, we at Safety One Source, we're always here to help too.
Absolutely. We love providing resources and support to safety professionals, and we truly believe that, knowledge is the key.
It is.
To creating that safer environment.
Well said. And big thanks to Safety One Source for sponsoring this deep dive. We appreciate it.
Our pleasure. We're glad to be a part of this.
Yeah, we hope that this was helpful and that it'll help you guys, make those smart decisions out there.
Absolutely.
Prioritize safety. And with that, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Just remember, safety isn't just a bunch of rules, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's a responsibility we all share. It's about looking out for each other, making sure everybody gets to go home safe.
Absolutely.
So everybody stay safe out there. We'll catch you next time.